Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really honest look at a dynamic pretty much all of us have experienced, but, well, very few of us actually understand. We're going to examine how emotional dependence on external approval silently diminishes our personal freedom and just chips away at our self-worth. If you've ever felt like your peace of mind is entirely tied to someone else's attention, you're in the right place, because this explainer is designed exactly for you.
Let me ask you something that cuts a bit deeper than most of us are willing to admit. Why is it that the more effort you give, the more your presence just seems to become expected? Why do some people barely even notice your immense value when you're always there, right in front of them? Yet the exact moment you step back, they suddenly start paying attention? It's a deeply painful, frustrating reality to accept when you feel completely unappreciated.
Section 1. The Expected Presence Trap. Okay, let's dive right into this, because understanding the trap is your first step out of it.
So a lot of us spend months, maybe even years, totally exhausting ourselves trying to earn appreciation. We just pour on the effort. But paradoxically, we eventually figure out that stepping back, our literal absence, creates way more impacts than all of our constant attention ever did. The Stoics actually recognized this centuries ago. You see, human beings naturally overlook what feels perfectly guaranteed. We literally only recognize the true value of a thing when it's no longer a certainty.
Now, you might be wondering, from the outside, doesn't creating distance just look like a manipulative reaction? It can definitely look like a tactical move to make someone feel guilty or, force them to miss you. But the deeper truth is much quieter than that. Walking away is rarely about trying to change another person's behavior. It's a profoundly personal journey. It's about changing your relationship with your own mind. It's not about leaving someone else behind. It's about finally finding your way back to yourself and reclaiming absolute ownership of your own self-worth.
Section 2. Your mind on surveillance. Let's look at what happens to us right before we make that shift, that sheer exhaustion of emotional dependence.
Think about how this actually feels in real time. Your phone buzzes. Suddenly, the attention of another person becomes this vital resource you feel like you have to monitor. A reply arrives. Boom. Your mood lifts instantly. Validation is secured.
But then, a reply delays. Those three little typing dots just disappear, and your mind races, right? You start endlessly searching for answers, basically inventing problems out of thin air. Tiny shifts in behavior become these major code-red emergencies.
You find yourself lying awake, replaying conversations, examining the tone of a simple text message. You're endlessly searching for meanings that honestly might not even exist. Your mind, which absolutely should be focused on your own growth and your own purpose, has been reduced to this exhausting 24/7 surveillance system, just scanning the horizon for any signs of approval or rejection.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict here. What makes this whole surveillance cycle so incredibly dangerous is that it disguises itself as care or investment or loyalty. But actually, it's just dependence. There's a massive difference between caring about someone and being emotionally dependent on them. True strength allows you to appreciate a connection while staying totally grounded in your own self-worth. Fear, on the other hand, convinces you that your emotional stability depends entirely on getting something from another person, maintaining that connection literally at all costs.
Section 3. The Stoic Shift.
So how do we actually break this exhausting cycle? We turn to an ancient solution for a very modern trap. The Stoics understood that our suffering always begins when we confuse what belongs to us with what doesn't. This boundary, it's absolutely crucial. Your thoughts, your actions, your judgments, those belong to you. The opinions, the choices, and the behavior of other people, those do not. And yet, we spend enormous amounts of energy trying to influence things that were never ours to control in the first place. Listen, no amount of overthinking can force someone to appreciate you. Trying to control reality and other people is just an impossible, totally frustrating task.
The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it perfectly. No man is free who is not master of himself. Just think about that for a second. Anyone can feel confident when they're getting constant, glowing validation. But true freedom, and I mean your true character, is revealed in what remains when that external approval entirely disappears.
Section 4. The Power of Silence. This brings us to the next phase of this journey, the uncomfortable but totally necessary adaptation to stepping back.
Look, breaking a deep habit of emotional dependence is rarely a walk in the park. When you stop chasing, the silence feels pretty unfamiliar at first. The sudden absence of all that constant emotional stimulation leaves you with a strange emptiness. And you know what?
A lot of people interpret this initial discomfort as proof that they made the wrong choice, but it's not. It's simply your mind adapting to health. Once that thick fog of preoccupation and fixation begins to clear up, a really profound clarity emerges. You finally start to see reality exactly as it is, not as you desperately hoped it would be.
As the great Stoic Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, discomfort is not an enemy, it's a teacher. Every single challenge carries vital information about how our minds work. When you stop running away from the discomfort of stepping back, you actually transform your fear. It stops being this massive brick wall standing in your way, and instead, it becomes a doorway, simply asking you if you're willing to step through it and learn.
Section 5. Reclaiming Inner Authority. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final realization.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly ancient Stoicism aligns with modern psychology. Psychologists call this scarcity. When access to something is suddenly limited, we instinctively pay far closer attention to it. The Stoics knew long before modern scientists did that constant availability diminishes impact. By stepping back, you're not playing some silly game. You are simply allowing the natural law of contrast to reveal the massive value that was there all along.
And trust me, people notice this shift. Human beings are remarkably sensitive to emotional signals. We can smell the unstable neediness of desperation from a mile away, the over-explaining, the excessive effort. But we also detect certainty. When you finally stop trying to convince others of your value, this quiet, grounded confidence emerges. Certainty communicates deep self-respect and abundance. Desperation just communicates dependence. One naturally invites respect, the other, unfortunately, diminishes it, for sure.
When you reclaim your inner authority and deliberately step back, the dynamic entirely changes. The constant pursuit just stops. Conversations aren't a guarantee anymore. Your attention isn't this 24/7 constant they can always bank on. You stop offering effortless explanations just to manage someone else's perception of you. And suddenly, there's room. There's room for them to realize the value of the role you once played, precisely because you are no longer desperately performing it.
The Stoics highly valued restraint for exactly this reason. Restraint increases impact. And again, this isn't some manipulation tactic to control how others see you, because, as we've learned, perception is completely outside of our control anyway. Rather, stepping into silence is a powerful way to stop focusing your energy outward and finally turn your attention inward. It is where the noise ends and true reflection actually begins.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. When you strip away all the external validation, when you stop measuring your own worth by the responses of others, what remains when the approval disappears? Answering that honestly is your first real step to true freedom.